susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.
Patnubay at gabay sa mga manunood ng inyong matutunghayan ay di labag sa PWD Law dahil PWD Law ay nagbibigay pribilehiyo at tulong sa mga taong may kapansanan at matatanda. Ang pagkawala ng isang sense ay malaki ang dulot o pagsubok at hirap sa taong may kapansanan. Ang PWD Law ay gabay para sa pinakasukdulang pamumuhay ng may kapansanan. Ang inyong mapapanood ay magbibigay dagdag na kaalaman sa senses. Hoy, ang pangit mo ah.
Wow, ang gwapo!
Normal. Basic. Alam mo sabihin ako sa'yo.
Ano?
Pero sikreto lang natin.
Ano nga?
Promise.
Ang kulit.
Kasi nga, ito, madalas sinasabi to sa akin ng mga kaibigan ko. Sasawa na nga ako eh. Tayo naririnig.
Na ano na ang pangit mo?
Hindi. Kasi sabi niya sa ang pogi ko.
Wow! Saan banda dyan kahit hindi?
Okay lang talaga. Gagawin mo ako. Light-lightin mo ako. Sanay naman ako. Nilunok ko yung pride ko para sa'yo. Nilunok ko yung pride ko para sa'yo. Nilunok ko yung pride ko para sa'yo.
Ang drama mo naman. Alam mo, speaking of paglunok ng pride, kasi ganito yan. Alam mo ba na ang gustatory, about yun sa mga taste na...
The gustatory system is responsible for the perception of taste and allows us to transduce chemical molecules into specific taste sensations. The tongue contains papillae, the small nipple-like structure on the upper surface of the tongue that give the tongue its characteristic rough texture. Papillae contains taste buds. Taste buds are sensory organs which allow us to experience taste. Taste buds contain taste receptor cells. Taste receptor cells send impulses or the action potentials to cranial nerves 7 and 9. Cranial nerves 10 or vagus also carries taste information from a small portion of epiglottis. There are 5 primary taste sensations: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. Taste is processed in the gustatory cortex in the brain. Areas for taste include the frontal operculum and portions of the insula. Taste buds send the information from the taste stands to the brain, where a molecule is processed as a certain taste. Taste can be appetitive or aversive, depending on the unique makeup of the material being tasted. There is one type of taste receptor for each flavor, and each type of taste stimulus is transduced by a different mechanism. The food that we eat goes into our throat, then through our esophagus, and will enter our stomach. But as they are processed in our body, we also experience their taste through gustatory cells. Gustatory cells are short-lived and are continuously regenerating. They each contain a taste pore at the surface of the tongue, which is the site of sensory transduction. Though there are small differences in sensation, all taste buds, no matter their location, can respond to all types of taste. Now let's move on to the papillae. As I have mentioned a while ago, papillae is the small nipple-like structures on the upper surface of the tongue that gives the tongue its characteristic rough texture. Foods such as apple and many others that we intake daily have different tastes. All in all, there can be 10,000 taste buds on our tongue. Sweet, sour, bitter, and salty are the four common primary taste sensations. However, we can still experience loss of taste. One disorder is the reduced ability to taste sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and umami, a condition called hypogeusia. Also, some people can't even detect any taste, which is called ageusia. Another one would be dysgeusia, a condition in which a foul, salty, rancid, or metallic taste sensation persists in the mouth. But these disorders can be lessened by some ways, such as preparing foods with a variety of colors and textures, using aromatic herbs and hot spices to add more flavor, and avoiding combination dishes, such as casseroles, that can hide individual flavors and dilute taste. Some disorders occur because of other general medical problems and might only be prevented or treated when such problems are also cured. Because of this, we can conclude that our sense of taste is related to the sense of smell and can greatly affect each
So,
other.
nalaman mo ngayon, sinabi ko about sa gustatory. Alam mo na kahit paanong lunok mo dyan sa pride mo, hindi mo nun malalasahan yan. Bumili ka na lang ng ibang pagkain dyan.
Ouch! Naku mo yun? May spark. Ito. May chemistry tayo.
Alam mo ba, ganito kasi ang sense of sensation.
The human sense of touch is known as the somatic or somatosensory system. Touch is the first sense developed by the body, and the skin is the largest and most complex organ in the somatosensory system. By gathering external stimuli and interpreting them into useful information for the nervous system, skin allows the body to function successfully in the physical world. Touch receptors in the skin have three main subdivisions: mechanoreception, or the sense of pressure; thermoreception, the sense of heat; and nociception, the sense of pain. Receptor cells in the muscles and joints, called proprioceptors, also aid in the somatosensory system, but they are sometimes separated in another sensory category called kinesthesia. The somatosensory system uses specialized receptor cells in the skin and body to detect changes in the environment. The receptors collect and convert physical stimuli into electrical and chemical signals through the transduction process and send these impulses to the nervous system for processing. Sensory cell function in the somatosensory system is determined by location. The receptors in the skin, also called cutaneous receptors, tell the body about the three main subdivisions: the mechanoreceptors for the pressure and surface texture, the thermoreceptors for the temperature, and the nociceptors for the pain. The receptors in the muscles and joints provide information about muscle length, muscle tension, and joint angles.
Kaya posibleng magka-sparks tayo. Gets mo?
Uy, Josie!
Oh, Miko!
Alam mo ba yun?
Alin?
Yun o!
Alin dun?
Yun!
Alin nga? Ano ba yan?
Ay
Problema
naku,
mo.
Josie. Siguro may problema ka sa mata. Kasi kahit anong gawin ko, hindi ko pa rin makita ang mahal kita.
Miko, walang problema ang mata ko at mata mo. Ang sense of vision kasi natin ay ganito.
The sense of vision is the ability to detect light as it plays a central role in the lives of both humans and animals. The main parts are the choroid, sclera, and retina. The outer surface of the human eyeball is a tough, whitish layer of connective tissue called the sclera. The sclera surrounds a pigmented layer called the choroid. At the front of the eye, the sclera becomes the transparent cornea, which lets light into the eye and also focus light. The human eye has a small opening at the center of the eye, which is the pupil, through which light enters. Analogous to a camera's shutter, an adjustable donut-shaped iris changes the diameter of the pupil to let in more or less light. After going through the pupil, light passes through a single disc-like lens. And there we have the two main chambers of the eye, the anterior chamber and the posterior chamber. The much smaller chamber in front of the lens contains the thinner aqueous humor, while the large chamber behind the lens is filled with the jelly-like vitreous humor. And here we have the rods, cones, fovea centralis, and optic nerves. Now here's a demonstration on how the images are sent from the eye to the brain. Now what causes blurry vision? A lens focuses light onto a retina by bending light rays. Light from distant objects approaches in parallel rays that require less bending for proper focusing on the retina. When the eye focuses on the distant object, the muscle controlling the lens relaxes, and the choroid moves away from the lens. This puts tension on the ligaments and flattens the elastic lens. Flattening the lens makes it less thick, and so the light is not bent as much. This allows a distant object to be placed into focus. At least that is how the human eye is supposed to work. Three of the most common vision problems are nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism. All three are focusing problems easily corrected with artificial lenses. Farsightedness, also known as hyperopia. It occurs when the eyeball is shorter than normal, causing the lens to focus images behind the retina. Farsighted people see distant objects normally. People with nearsightedness cannot focus well on distant objects, although they can see well at short distances. A nearsighted eyeball is longer than normal. Nearsightedness is also known as myopia. Lastly, we've got astigmatism, which is blurred vision caused by misshapen lens or cornea. This makes light rays converge unevenly and not focus at one point on the retina. Corrective lenses are options for treating vision disorders.
Baka hindi naman talaga mata niya ang may problema. Sadyang hindi ka lang talaga niya gusto.
Ano ka nga? Pang TV ko kasi to eh.
Ah, nakapatay nga, di naman nakatutok kay, ano, kawa. Ayan. Alam mo, parang ang droga. Kasi nga,
Ano ba yan?
pag inaamoy kita, lalo akong na-addict sa'yo.
Ganito tuturuan kita. Alam mo ba ng olfactory sense natin?
The olfactory system gives humans their sense of smell by inhaling and detecting odorants in the environment. Olfaction is physiologically related to gustation, the sense of taste, because of its use of chemoreceptors to discern information about substances. Perceiving complex flavors requires recognizing taste and smell sensations at the same time, an interaction known as chemoreceptive sensory interaction. This causes foods to taste different if the olfactory system is compromised. However, olfaction is anatomically different from gestation because it uses the sensory organs of the nose and nasal cavity to capture smells. Humans can identify a large number of odors and use this information to interact successfully with their environment. Olfactory sensitivity is directly proportional to spatial area in the nose, specifically the olfactory epithelium, which is where odorant reception occurs. The area of the nasal cavity near the septum is reserved for the olfactory mucous membrane, where olfactory receptor cells are located. This area is a dime-sized region called the olfactory mucosa. In humans, there are about 10 million olfactory cells, each of which has 350 different receptor types composing the mucous membrane. Each of the 350 receptor types is characteristic of only one odorant type. Each functions using cilia, the small hair-like projections that contain olfactory receptor proteins. These proteins carry out the transduction of odorants into electric signals for neural processing. Olfactory transduction is a series of events in which odor molecules are detected by olfactory receptors. These chemical signals are transformed into electrical signals and sent to the brain, where they are all perceived as smells. Individual features of odor molecules descend on various parts of the olfactory system in the brain and combine to form a representation of odor. Since most odor molecules have several individual features, the number of possible combinations allows the olfactory system to detect an impressively broad range of smells. A group of odorants that share some chemical feature and causes similar patterns of neural firing is called an odotope. Humans can differentiate between 10,000 different odors. People can train their sense of smell to become expert in detecting subtle odors by practicing retrieving smells from memory. Illness anxiety disorder. A somatic symptom disorder involving persistent and excessive worry about developing a serious illness.
Matukhang ka ba? Imposible ma-addict ka sa akin. Kasi may putok.
Cut call! Mga miss, narinig niyo ba tibok ng puso ko? Narinig niyo ba tibok ng puso ko?
Kala niyo hindi na ako nadala. Ngayon lang naman din kasi ako. Alam niyo ba, ang auditory.
Sense of hearing. Hearing is the ability to detect sound. Humans and other mammals are able to do this with the help of an organ called ear. The word ear is used to refer to the outer ear and a group of nerves and muscles hidden inside called the inner ear. The outer ear or pinna is the first step in hearing. It directs sound energy down to the auditory canal towards the eardrum. Sound that passes through the eardrum is simplified into one amplitude that is easily detected by the inner ear and transmitted to the brain. The inner ear is a hollow cavity that is filled with a liquid and lined with hair-like structures that are sensitive to sound. When sound passes into the liquid of the inner ear, it applies pressure on the tiny hairs. This triggers a signal to the brain, which it interprets as a particular sound. Your sense of balance depends primarily on the vestibular system, also located in your inner ear. The moment you close your eyes, your ears can't correlate and you will start losing balance. hearing works, what you need to know about this amazing sense. Before they get old, when they were still in their child stage, make sure they pass a hearing test, for there is something called auditory processing disorder. Your child passes a hearing test but is diagnosed with auditory processing disorder or APD. How is it possible to have an auditory disorder when you don't have a hearing impairment? Children with APD typically have normal hearing, but they struggle to process and make meaning of sounds. This is especially true when there are background noises. Typically, the brain processes sounds seamlessly and almost instantly. Most people can quickly interpret what they hear, but with APD, some kind of glitch, delays, or scrambles that process. To a child with APD, tell me how the chair and couch are alike might sound like tell me how a cow and hare are alike. Many conditions, including ADHD and autism, can affect a child's understanding the sounds of spoken language, not the meaning of what is being said. How common is auditory processing disorder? The number of children with APD is estimated to be 2 to 7%. Some experts estimate that the boys are twice as likely as girls to have auditory processing disorder, but there's no solid research to prove that. The exact causes of APD are still unknown. Research suggests possible links to several factors. This includes premature birth or low birth weight, head trauma, chronic ear infections, and lead poisoning. To prevent any hearing ailments or diseases, please visit your local ear physician. Now, here are the different degrees of hearing loss.
Okay na ba? Pwede niyo bang pakinggan ang nilalaman ng puso ko?
Babae kasi hanap ko eh. What? At ako kasi yung babaeng hanap niya eh.
Magmamadre kasi ako.
Naamoy mo yun? Bango ah.
Ano ba yun? Masok ka ka? Nakikita ka sa picture ko eh. Ang profile picture
Wow,
kasi
ah.
to.
Alam mo, parang ang drugs. Kasi, pag naaamoy kita, na-addict ako. Pero pag nakikita kita, gusto ko nang ipatukang.
Video yan ah. Kadiri.
Go! Oh!
Babae kasi hanap.
종종 걸음 재촉해봐도 시간은 도망가고 금방 실증이나 덮어버린 쌓여가는 내 청춘은 불린 나사처럼 흔들려 나는 작은 꿈을 꾸는 나무 달콤한 열매 햇살 가득 열릴 때까지 사랑해봐 끝까지 너의 꿈이 날아 저 별보다 빛나는 너의 웃음을 듣고 싶어
Babae kasi hanap ko eh. At ako kasi yung babaeng hanap niya eh.
Magmamadre kasi ako.
Naamoy mo yun? Bango ah.
Ano ba yun? Masok ka ka? Nakikita ka sa picture ko eh. Ang profile picture
Wow,
kasi
ah.
to.
Oh, alam mo, parang ang drugs. Kasi, pag naaamoy kita, na-addict ako. Pero pag nakikita kita, gusto ko nang ipatukang.
Video yan ah. Kadiri.
Go!